Here we go.
Okay.
So, a couple days ago, hi guys.
Hi.
We've been advertising this. This is my friend Jeri. We decided to do an Instagram Live together today.
Super excited when Wendy said, "Do you want to chat with me about anything?" She said specifically something like a long term. I was like, "I don't care what you want me to talk with you about. I will sit with Wendy any time of the day." So here I am.
Well, this one and I have had some great conversations, and as I was writing the other morning, I started thinking about this topic of generational consciousness that is so really, I'm just so passionate about it, and a lot of people are like, what the heck is generational consciousness? So I started learning about it in Jeri's yoga class because she told these beautiful stories while I was on my mat about the samskaras, and I don't even know if I'm saying it right.
Yes.
You say it so beautifully.
Some say samskar, and then there's samskara. So, there's always a little...
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the samskaras are the Patanjali's philosophy of these riverbeds that get embedded in our bodies, and they're passed down from generation to generation. And they're fine if you've got some good memories. Those can be good samskaras, but then the other samskaras are the memories that you don't really like and you can't really shake, and they just start to dig into you. And so they're traumas, their pains, their stories, they're good, they're happy ones, they're sad ones. And in the Buddhist philosophy, I think the middle way is a term. So even though you might have all these great memories, they're kind of taking up space as well.
Yeah. And I attach so much to that because, I come from a farming family, and so the concept of roots and like where our roots are planted, and then where we go from there. As a writer, I always have all these figurative things going through my brain, and so my roots were in the Central Valley in this heavy clay where everything is, it's done a certain way, and the people are amazing, and they will just bear down and take it and do whatever they have to do to get things done. And then I moved to the beach, and then I was like, oh my gosh, look around, all these people, they just kind of like, they float like Jeri. I mean, I see her just floating and walking down the strand, and there's just this like lightness to people. So I started really getting into the idea of like that, of grounding, and like where we're planted and where we go. And how do our stories, when we know about our stories, we have so much more freedom in life to be who we really want to be. Yes. And
we want to create space. So, and there's so many tools to create space, and, I think it's whatever makes you most happiest. But what what's so interesting about being a farmer, like, who are we really? Like, who are we? Were your ancestors gangsters? Were they royalty? Were they farmers? Were they peasants? And some of us don't really even know our ancestors. We might know our grandmothers and the grandmothers past those, but really, like, there's a long lineage in history. And the fact that you said that you're so rooted and grounded, and that you, no matter what it takes to dig into the soil, that's kind of who you are, Wendy. You really are like that.
Yeah.
Like, you don't flit about. You actually want to know the richness of the soil of life. So it makes sense to me. I think I come from a gangsta family. Billy the Kid. Seriously, that was my grandfather's roommate. And so I'm like, well, don't get me in a dark alley. Ching, ching, ching.
Yeah.
And so I have that kind of little crazy volatile nature about myself, and I guess it's what we know.
And the other, I'm a very empathic person, and I was just telling Jeri before we started, I didn't even know what that was until I was 40 years old. So the first time I read an Elephant Journal article all about empaths, I felt like I had been seen for the first time. Like, it was mind-blowing to me. So I've never known what to do with the energy that I pick up from other people around me, whether they're in my family, just people walking down the street, in a yoga class, on the volleyball court, whatever it is. But I do come across people like Jeri, and the second that I meet them, I'm like, I feel this quick, deep connection. And, so there's so much good that can come from that energetic field that once you learn to recognize it.
Yeah.
But when you ignore it, or if you overcompensate for it, you can. I think for a long time I turned myself into a big people pleaser because I'd feel people's energy and go, oh, something's not right there, so what can I do to... Yeah. So I think part of understanding our stories and where we come from is creating that safe space for people to be able to recognize their own story, because it can be scary and it can be hard. And I think the thing that I work with the most is knowing that people do the best that they can with what they know.
Right. And so once you start to uncover and discover these layers that we are almost wearing suits of armor, and if we can just take part of that armor off and set it aside, we become very vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I think we're all just trying to do our best, but a lot of times we get lost, and we just don't know what's that next step to take. Why am I always a pet rat? Why am I always angry? Why can I never find the right spouse? And if only that spouse would pay more attention to me. And so you get into these cycles of life, and it's really hard to get out of the tailspins of them.
Yeah.
I know so well, because I'm always trying to climb out of.
Which is like what I love most about her, because she's like this shining light, and she seems so wise to me, but you're always so willing to say, like, I'm struggling. You say, I feel stuck, like, you said it on your little video yesterday, I feel stuck.
Yeah.
And I think the new year, like, people are wondering, like, we had this whole idea of 2021, and it's here comes 2021 and it's all gonna change. Well,
right.
We woke up on January 1st and the world is still
and now
the world.
It's the 6th and nothing really changed.
And we're still doing it, and we can do it, but it's like recognizing that spot where just the presence. It's not looking forward. It's, for me, in figuring out these stories, it is recognizing what came before, but it's that art of staying present and then creating safe space for other people to do the same thing. And you do that so incredibly well.
Oh, that's really sweet of you to say. I think that we're both empathic, and if you don't know what to do with that, that's scary too. I mean, I live with an empath, and I can see the other side of it, and I think we're all really wanting to be the best human beings, and so, like, what steps, what can we do? So what are some of the things that you think you can do to uncover some of the samskara? Because when you think of samskara, they're little almonds that can get stuck, like, on sides of the riverbed, and then they just sprout and grow into, like, big ass problems. And so you want to make sure that you put them in a frying pan and burn those almonds so they don't sprout.
Oh,
they don't
I like
seed.
that language. Yeah.
So and the one way to do that is to exercise, because that's tapas. Tapas in Sanskrit is heat, and burning up that heat, and that's what we want to do is keep moving so we don't get stuck. So that's, exercise is such as, we can throw out exercise and meditate, but it really is what's right for you.
Yeah, and figuring out what works for you. Exercise is definitely a thing for me. Yoga was a hugely healing thing for me, because I never realized that's like when you take a mindfulness practice and exercise, put it together, and it's life-changing. So, the breath to movement is just, I highly recommend it for the new year if you're not trying it yet.
Breath to movement could be walking on the beach.
Yes.
Breath to movement could be just when you're doing your dishes. I mean, the more zen attitude.
And I love that, because I've been pretty hard on myself about, like, a meditation practice where you sit still and meditate, and I do that sometimes, but quarantine turned me into a walking meditator. And
I'm into that.
Yeah, and so for me, that the movement is so freeing and burns off that energy that can leave us feeling stuck. So
this world.
You played tennis this morning. I played volleyball this morning.
You gotta move. You got to move. You have to move like 30 minutes a day, no matter what.
Yeah,
it's all part of the samskara.
The other thing that I've done, and I have a blog called The Optimist Journal, because of this very reason of uncovering the power of your story. And when I went through my divorce, I really was looking for answers of how did I end up here? Because, like I said, I really do believe that everybody is trying to do the best they can do most of the time, and yet we still end up in these places where we're like, wait, what the heck happened?
Right,
So I started my blog, The Optimist Journal, because one, it was an uncovering for me, and it was also something that I thought I could turn into for my kids. So that concept of generational learning, that even if they're not ready to hear it today, in 20 years and 30 years, they're going to be able to look back and go, this is what my mom was thinking at that point. And I do think that there's something to that, because we're not always ready to hear, or people have to be ready to hear the story. you know?
Absolutely.
And it means different things at different points in our life.
Yeah, exactly. So the word yoga means something different to everybody, and really, honestly, it's union with everything right now is so frenetic. It's so much anxiety, so much depression right now, and so much sadness, really.
Yeah.
And if we can turn that lens and realize that what we're looking through is lenses, but we see through it. We don't see the lenses themselves.
Yeah.
You know, so like when you can pull yourself back, and that's getting into a state of flow, that's like whatever kind of teas or tinctures or anything that you make for yourself that pulls you out of this state of staring through the lens without seeing the lenses, then you can see yourself from a different perspective.
Yes. It's almost, and that's what flow is. You feel like you're outside of your body,
Yeah.
looking in.
So how are ways to get in states of flow?
Writing is
It's
huge.
a state of flow. Dancing.
Yes.
And also being very quiet and very still, and that's meditation as well. But I'm sure everyone I can see people are chatting in, which I wish we could see you closer, and next time we'll kind of figure that out.
Yeah.
But we appreciate you probably piping in and saying what
Yes.
makes you, what makes you feel that you're not peering so searingly through.
And like analyzing your life with such a fine tooth comb, right?
Yeah.
Because honestly, I think all of us feel like we get stuck, and what we don't realize, or even when we're stuck, sometimes I expect to have this like huge revelation, right?
Oh.
Like I'm gonna
Every
have
day I
this
wake
big
up, I'm
breakthrough, right? I think I've felt like that my whole life. Like today's the day.
This is gonna.
All of a sudden
I
you
can see it.
realize it's like today is always the day, but it's like it's this much better if you like it's that concept of 1% better, and not getting frustrated that it's not 100% better today, right?
That's great to hear it from Wendy, because we always think of we like Wendy.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
but it's true. We look at other people for examples, and that's wonderful to, you know. But what is a guru? It's GURU. You know, it's like you're your own guru.
Yeah, and as a coach, that's something that I've always been really fascinated, like or passionate about is helping people realize that like everything that they need to succeed is already within them. It's just we don't recognize it. So sometimes it takes another person. You know, I come and talk to Jeri, and I walk away, and I'm like, oh, like that's, you know, I am on the right track, or here's what I need to tweak or just feel. I think part of it is just being with someone who sees the beauty in you when you don't see it on your own all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
And that, to keep people around like that, I highly recommend it.
Keep her around. Yeah.
Keep her around.
Keep her around. And so what are some of the other things? So we talked about movement, we talked about journaling, dancing is really a great way. Whatever, I mean, when's the last time you cranked up some music and just danced for 20 minutes? Like literally.
Seriously, I don't think I've done that since college.
See, it's time. It's time we all just crank up the music. And if you feel weird doing it, you're doing something right.
Yeah,
right?
see,
and
that's huge for me.
My hoop is my dance.
I used to watch her before I knew her out on the beach. This is how I know we were supposed to be connected. I used to watch you, the hula hoop lady, because I used to live 2 blocks away from her.
Oh, that's right.
And I was like, that is so cool. Look at her. And then guess what I did during quarantine? I had a hula hoop in my backyard.
Oh, great.
And
great.
Yeah, I learned something from you.
I love it.
But it's the movement, it's the...
And I think it's the oils, and it's the potions, the lotions, the tai chi, it's the qigong, it's the whatever it is that makes you just go, I feel better just for this moment.
So what do you say to people who, like, that might be...
That's my mom calling.
Oh,
Mom.
That's kind of perfect, actually. I miss being in Jeri's yoga classes because her mom would call.
Hi, Cher.
Her mom, what time? It's 1 o'clock, huh?
Yeah, it's quarter till.
I used to be in your flow class at 12:30, and then your mom would call at 1. So I lost my train of thought.
Hi, Cher.
Where was I going?
Well, so
I know what my question was.
Yeah.
People can get overwhelmed by having so many choices of like what works for you.
Yes.
So figuring out what works for you, it can be a process. It can
vision boarding is such a great way to get your groove, to start to see that the groove is not, altering you.
Yeah.
It's like, I think it's really important to realize that, all of that anxiety and depression that I feel, it starts to run havoc on our nervous system.
Oh,
And that's what's so important, is that to,
Yeah.
to kind of like reverse the blood flow. And these are simple things that we're saying, but really they're just, it's like, it's a lot of work being a human.
it is. And I never knew about the nervous system until I had my youngest and started learning about how his nervous system worked just a little bit differently than mine. And now I'm realizing it actually doesn't work all that different than mine.
Yeah.
I was pretty keyed up and a lot of
interesting.
fight or flight
Yeah.
as a kid and all the way up, through my adult years, and learning through yoga and mindfulness how to breathe, to activate my parasympathetic state and just be. I mean,
that-
completely free.
We know that fight and flight, and then
And when you learn to recognize it, when you feel it come in, you feel your heart beating faster. You feel like maybe you start to sweat, or your
Yeah.
palms get clammy, or whatever it is. Knowing how to backtrack out of that it's been so amazingly freeing for me. And then I can teach my kids to do the same thing.
yeah, I think you've gone leaps and bounds in the last 6 years, or
Yeah, pretty much since I walked into Soho probably 4 or
Wow.
5 years ago.
I mean, and
And-
watching people, just
My
blossom before our very
Well,
eyes.
that place is really amazing, because I think I'm not the only one that is,
Yeah.
the place has done that for. But I think, I have a lot of faith, and I never knew, but I also have a lot of responsibility. And so
Yeah.
for me, it's always been hard, because I do rely on my faith to know that, like, the long term, that the universe is bigger than me, that everything's not just about me. But where my responsibility lies, I'm not somebody that's just gonna like throw up a prayer and be like, oh, it's gonna be okay. Like, I want to know what I have to do to make it better.
We have to be accountable.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that people are looking for a magic pill. And
Yeah.
It really, like, this life is pretty. It's a conundrum.
That's a good
it's
word.
a mystery. It's like every day is a mystery. But the more that you can add on to the mystery of uncovering with a little flashlight of, at least I meditated and had some green juice today, or at least
Yeah.
I gave somebody a note, a love note, or I gave somebody a little ride somewhere. I mean, they all add up. So it's just a matter of hopefully not living in this low grade stress that we're not aware that we're living in, and that's me. I live in sometimes this like jaw tightens up,
Yep.
and you're just like,
And my kids say the same thing. Like, my 15-year-old Kate will say, like, Mom, my jaw is, and I want to teach that stuff younger.
yeah.
Just the awareness that your jaw is tight is something. Like, just awareness is key.
Yes.
And then we start to learn, and we can keep learning from there. But if you choose not to have that awareness, and like I said, everybody has to come to this at their own
And
time.
that's where the generational consciousness, to go full circle, I suppose, would be that if each person kind of just takes the best care of ourselves, and I don't always do that either, but I try a little bit of something.
Yeah.
So then your kids and your neighbors' kids, and some people just maybe take a little peek, like, oh, I see and I see that, and then it starts to trickle, because we can talk about the 7 years,
Yes.
or
The Native American, and that is a Native American belief,
I believe
right?
so, yeah.
That we carry our stories from seven generations behind us, and then that means our stories carry 7 generations after us. Which I read some stories about that, and they were coming from a Native American perspective, but it resonated with me so much, because you do see it. You see patterns in families
Right,
repeat.
exactly.
You see, belief systems that get ground in, and then, some of them, like you say, some of them are beautiful traditions, and some of them are things that lead to,
disease
and addiction,
and addictions and things that we don't want, we don't
Yeah.
need. And if you are moving through any of those kinds of things, let anybody know. We're sitting right
because
here
when
for
you shine a light on it, you will hear so quickly from someone else, me too, I struggle with the same thing. And it's so freeing, because I think that was something for me, like, going through a divorce, being really hard on myself, saying,
Yeah.
okay, what a failure. And then the second that you open up and say that this is what I went through, other people have those stories and so many more, and then they are comfortable to share them with you because you shared
Yeah.
a little bit about yourself with them.
Yeah, and I think that's what's called life. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think. Thank you, Wendy. I really
I know.
enjoy talking with you, obviously, because it's like we're like-minded people, and I'm sure you are too.
Well, and Jeri does these awesome tarot card readings.
That's my gig. I mean, I love my tarot, and that gets me in a state of flow, and I can connect with the person that I'm reading, and that gets them in a state of flow, and she has a whole program where she can get people healthy, on the right track. So
Yeah.
we're all around. We're sprinkled all around.
Right. So if you can, just gain a little bit of wisdom every day, you end up a lot ahead after how many years. So, and then you can share that wisdom with the people that come after you, even with the people that came before you, because like I said, we're all trying to do the best we can with what we know every day. So, you can find me at theoptimistjournal.com. I have a blog that comes out every Sunday. I have private coaching and group coaching available.
I love it.
I come to Jeri and she reads my cards, and it's
At
just
Mother Tarot Reader. Yeah.
Yes. So, thanks for chatting with us today, you guys.
Really, really glad you guys tuned in. And next time
Maybe
we'll
we'll
probably
do this,
talk about a state of flow, how to get into that state of flow, and what that state of flow can do for you.
Yes.
I love that. I love that dialogue
All
too.
right.
All right.
Well, have a great day,
Thank you guys so much.
Yep.
Wow, what a joy. What an honor. Bye, Mom. That's another story for another time.